This Thursday, Russia is taking its case to the UN Security Council to call for an international investigation into the poisoning of former spy Sergei Skripal. This comes a day after Moscow's call for a joint inquiry was rejected by the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons. Britain blames Russia for the attack on UK soil with what it says was a Soviet-made nerve agent, that's Novichok. Russia's ambassador to the UK, Alexander Yakovenko, has been reacting to the decision to deny the Kremlin access to Skripal's case documents.
Full cooperation on the British side. We wanted to see, the evidence. We want to have access, but not only Russia. We believe that it should be available for the whole world. 15 countries, 15, voted against that decision. So basically they voted against transparency. They voted against the access to the full and fair information. And this is the, mostly this is the countries of the EU and NATO.
Our correspondent Benedict Pavia standing by in London for the latest on this story. Benedict, you were at the news conference held by Russia's ambassador in the UK, from whom we just heard. What came out of that 90-minute briefing?
What came out of this 90-minute briefing to both the British and international press is that the Russians are very cross, even if the London ambassador smiles a lot. In fact, one of my colleagues from another outlet asked him if he was enjoying this since he was smiling so much. He said, no, this is serious. But what we want access to the investigation. We want access to the samples. He denied that the Russian authorities had not responded to questions that had been asked about Novichok by the Foreign Office and by the British government. And I think very clearly, as we heard in that clip, he and his government are very clearly accusing the British of obfuscation, which is obviously not at all the way the Foreign Office or the British government sees it. And we know the diplomatic crisis, indeed, we've been reporting on it ever since the 5th of March, was when we found out that this 4th of March incident had happened to the Skripals, allegedly an attempted murder, say the British authorities. And clearly, the Russians want consular access, they say, to the Skripals. They are Russian citizens. It is their duty to take care of them. The UK, the Russian ambassador said, is in that sense in contravention of the Convention of Vienna. And it is clear that he basically invalidates the decision that was made at the OPCW in The Hague yesterday, saying that actually the bulk of countries that had voted in favour of it were EU countries and NATO countries, and that the bulk really of other countries had abstained. And that was under pressure, he said, from the EU and NATO countries. And so a big press conference where basically Russia maintains its position and its request for joint access to the investigation, and denies that it has, A, stored any Novichok, he said that repeatedly, and denies any involvement whatsoever in the attempted murder of the Skripals.
Now, also this Thursday, Benedict, we've heard from Yulia Sergei's daughter, Sergei Skripal's daughter, saying that she's recovering, she's gaining strength. This has come from two sources, one of them Russian state media, the other one a police statement in the United Kingdom. What was the reaction from Yakovenko on that?
Well, very interesting. He immediately, it happened actually, that happened, and that was broadcast on British television while we were in that press conference in the Russian ambassador's residence in central London. He immediately said that that was good news. He was happy that Yulia Skripal appeared to be getting better. He hoped that would be the case for Sergei Skripal. Of course, we have to be careful with the phone call, alleged conversation that was broadcast by Russian media, now rebroadcast by British media. It's an alleged conversation that took place on the 5th of April, a phone conversation between Yulia, the recovering Yulia Skripal, in a hospital in Salisbury, and allegedly her cousin, Victoria Skripal, who, by the way, is trying to get a visa to come to the UK and see Yulia and Sergei Skripal. In it, Yulia Skripal, in this alleged conversation between the two, she says she thanks basically the people in Salisbury for coming to her help, the emergency services, thanks to staff. But interestingly, and I suppose quite naturally, says that please respect the privacy of my family during the period of my convalescence. So we don't know, and indeed the Russian ambassador himself, learning this from a fellow journalist of mine, basically said he could not verify the authenticity of this conversation that was deemed to have happened between Victoria and Yulia Skripal.
Benedict Pavia reporting for us from London on the ongoing scandal surrounding Sergei Skripal.